Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fresh from the Studio, Red Dot Edition. We are thrilled to have tonight three artists who are going to talk about their work and what they've been working on. And they are also artists who are going to be featured in our Red Dot Art Spree that's happening this year on Thursday, September 30th, online and in person. Tickets are available now. And you can purchase a ticket and shop virtually, or purchase a ticket and come to the gallery for the event that's from 6 to 9 p.m. Tonight's artists are Mayuko Ono Gray, Paloma Mayorga, and Sara Vanderbeek. We're going to start backwards with Sara Vanderbeek.
Hi, everyone. Hold on one second. I'm going to share my screen. I'm sorry. I had everything perfect, and of course, it's not perfect. Spoiler alert. Okay, hold on one second. I'm so sorry. There we go. All right. Everybody can see this, I hope.
Yes, looks great.
Okay, good. Hello, and thank you, women in their work, and Diane and Ali for inviting me to do this, and to Paloma and Mayuko for sharing this awesome space tonight. I am very excited to share what I've been working on in this format, because I haven't done this in a while, and so it was really cool to kind of look at. I'm taking y'all through basically January 2020 to present. So it was at once horrifying looking back, and also kind of awesome seeing it all makes sense when you put it all together like this. So I'm going to move kind of chronologically. And for people who don't know about my practice, introduce myself as a portrait painter. I began my career as a portrait painter, and there's a lot. I kind of consider my work now still to be portraits. There are a lot of literal portraits, but there's also, I'm kind of expanding the idea of what a portrait can be through my work. I've always had a super strong interest in pattern and print, and that has, I got my BFA in printmaking, so that shows up kind of everywhere in my work. And I thought I would start my first real slide with a little plug about the Crit Group reunion show at the Contemporary this week. It opens Friday. And this is work that I made in 2017 for the Crit Group show at Grey Ducks. So, and it also is the first time that in modern history that I started working on fabric and started more textile work. So that will also be a theme here today. So June 2020, I had a lot going on, and it was amazing, and things felt awesome. I had a show at Cloud Tree Studios and Gallery here in Austin that was opening at the end of February. And then I also had just found out that I was a Facebook artist in residence and was going to get to do the mural for their lobby and reception area. So it was a lot of work, and it was awesome. And this is me in my studio preparing for the Cloud Tree work, which this is the installation of that work, which happened the week before the pandemic hit. And it was a body of work that I made in about 2 weeks about mental illness. So I was like mentally ill, making a show about mental illness. And in this pre-pandemic weird time where we knew that COVID existed, but we didn't know we didn't know a lot about it. And in America, we're really good at not facing the truth. So but the energy was in the air for years that I felt we were living through a terribly anxious time. And I had just become a mother in 2016. And this body of work was kind of about dealing with depression and anxiety as a mother, a working mother, a woman within the horrible healthcare system that we find ourselves in. And this was kind of the central image of that show, where I'm just like admitting that I'm this middle-aged woman who has bipolar disorder, and I'm not being approved for insurance because I have mental illness, and I've admitted it to, to them. And so they don't help me. Oops. And this is an image, so I have bipolar too. And this is an image of just kind of the obvious ups and downs. I call it double selfie. And this is called Hysterical Woman, also a self-portrait, but also I see it as a portrait of kind of every woman who, have been called hysterical for centuries, while we also carry the burden of basically everything. So this is called Lady Fucking Liberty, and it is a self-portrait I did. And with this body of work, it makes me laugh, and humor is very important to me in my practice. And with this body of work, I really wanted to make public this very intimate experience, but because I knew that I was connecting with so many other people by making this very private experience public. And this was a lot about like trying to hold it all together, and also and doing it successfully, and also falling apart a lot. And also just about being a woman. And that's another funny self-portrait that's got another fun title called Titty and Vag Juice. And then a family portrait, which is at once beautiful and also kind of disturbing. Like there's something going on. The baby's eye is like very suspicious maybe. And then Eric, my partner's eyes are yellow for some reason. So there's just kind of like moody. Let's see.
My name is Sarah Van.
Sorry. So the next slide is a video that is of the Facebook installation. And so at the same time that this is happening, the exact same time that I'm installing this show is when the Facebook installation starts, which the installation is I'm painting a mural with my husband, Eric, who this was the first time that we've completely collaborated on a project. So you'll see in this video kind of the process for making that mural, and then you'll get to see the mural.
My name is Sarah Vanderbeek. I'm an interdisciplinary artist living in Austin, Texas. My practice is centered around portraiture, but over the last several years, I've been re-examining what a portrait can be and thinking about it more abstractly. I made this mural with my partner, Eric Manch, and it's a portrait of early human migration out of Africa and across the rest of the continents. So we made a timeline on our studio wall, and it included documented settlements and important archaeological finds. We did a ton of drawings of tools, plant life, fossils, animals, and art. We cut them out and collaged them to read like a visual timeline from the lobby to the elevator bay in roughly chronological order. We used acrylic paint and brushes, so it would feel really painterly and gestural. We wanted to make a portrait of early human history and the early human aesthetic spirit. I hope people see this mural as an optimistic representation of humanity and what we achieve through community and our relationship with nature. Things that we make, tools that we make in order to build fires and boats and make sculptures and ultimately survive.
Cool. So that happened, and the actual day that we finished this mural, Facebook closed down their offices, and it was kind of the first official day of lockdown, and it was very strange. It was just a very strange experience, and kind of makes sense with all of the mental illness work that I was making, that things would be this high and then like crash. So this was an amazing project, collaborating with Eric, who also made this video. He is a filmmaker, animator, videographer in Austin, and has a creative agency. And it was awesome collaborating with him, and we hope to keep.
My name is Sara Vanderbeek.
Sorry. So there's the finished mural in the lobby. And then this is the elevator bay. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, our daughter came home and she was with us full time. So it was, full-time work and full-time parenting and trying to also teach and do school. And so this is a draw. I started doing just like small drawings because that's all I had the bandwidth for. And also just trying to capture the mood of what was happening and the horror and the fright, and I was doing it through my daughter. And so then I started making political signs. Things were getting crazier. And I went back to fabric, and I started painting on fabric again. And then we bought a pop-up camper. So this begins this new journey, literal journey, and then also new body of work. So we took this pop-up camper that we got around Texas to just get out and camp and be in nature, which we all found very healing. And we took a big trip, our first big trip in September, and I just brought this sketchbook and a very small, we couldn't bring very much. So my studio became very small, and I kind of loved having these tiny parameters. And then the idea was, when I got back, I was going to blow these drawings up. So this is a digital drawing of wildfires in California when we were on our trip. And then I did a lot of digital. And then when I got back from that first trip, I started doing these large ink drawings in my studio, kind of similar to the ones I showed you before. And then I had the idea to use this pop-up as a gallery / it was our studio, it was our home. And so then I was like, what if I use this fabric to decorate the whole thing? And so I started making bed sheets. So like portraits of us sleeping on the bed. And then I made very large, some of these smaller drawings that were in my sketchbook. So I was now going back and forth between kind of like small and large drawings, and just referencing what was going on in the country and on our trip. So it was personal, private, micro, macro. And so this became a bed sheet. And then I had the idea to tour this thing around the country and I called it pop-up tour, and put on a pop-up show in different locations. So this is just the first trip we took. We went to up to New York, and this is the very first installation I did of pop-up show. So it was a combination of things that I had made for the mental health show, And then some of the political signs, and then some new stuff that I had made. And this was this summer on this was the most recent trip. And then my first like official show was at the Bentonville Film Festival in Northwest Arkansas. And this is that. So the idea was it's a site responsive installation that can really go anywhere, but I love the idea that it can be anywhere, and that all of my work folds up in they're sheets, so they are tiny. So it kind of extends this idea of like a mini sustainable studio on wheels, studio gallery. So this is the first installation at a more urban spot. And I had to make this one when we were on the road because no one wears a mask in Arkansas, and it was terrifying. So these are older ones that I was, all of these are older ones that I was kind of filling in at the time. And then I came back and I started doing more drawings, smaller drawings. And this was in August. We got back, my daughter started school, and I started like rapid drawing and making another crazy body of work. And a couple of weeks ago, installed that at McKinney Falls State Park here in Austin. And this was the site of the very first time we went out in this pop-up trailer. So I thought it would be cool to host something, really my first thing in a year and a half, in public, and it was amazing. And so these are all of the new pieces. That one's called, this is going to be the death of us. And then that flag is a high hazard flag, modified beach flag. And then the idea was I was going to paint on tablecloths and napkins and like everything domestic you can think of. And so the work is referencing domesticity and, you know, traditional female roles, but it's also quite literally, I have to do laundry in order to make this work. So it's all like life is art, art is life. So these are just those are some dish towels that you see, and then curtains and self-portrait. This one is called The Ice is Melting. These are some protest signs from throughout the year on pillowcases. This is called Are We Listening? This is called Abortion is Healthcare. It's crazy how like you make stuff and then you're like, oh yeah, right. They were just gonna make abortion illegal like weeks after I made that. I forgot about that. This is called Prime Time. This is called, what is this one called? Oh, Death is in Season, or Welcome to the World of the Plastic Beach. Kind of about how humans are destroying everything, but how we also have to use all of, like, in order to save our lives, we're using all of this plastic and chemicals. And so it's like, we're making things better and worse. The human conundrum. This was a really bad day last year, so I thought I'd commemorate it. This one is called The Lands Are Flooding. The Earth is on Fire. And then those are, you can't see them well, but they're the sweetest little napkins that my daughter Florida drew on. She's obsessed with drawing dresses right now. And so she's drawing dresses on napkins. The Earth is on Fire. This is a painting of police headquarters during the George Floyd protests. This is kind of like what they do in the wind. So I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go quickly and switch over to my curatorial practice, which also I have been working on throughout this year, last couple of years, on a show. So Dorf is, for the people that don't know, is a gallery it's an in-home gallery in my studio, in my house, that is periodically used as a gallery space. And we do shows with a lot of local and regional artists, trying to highlight the work of underrepresented and emerging artists. And we started in 2018 as a response to kind of the mass closures of art spaces in Austin, and understanding the great need that we have here. And we, at all of our shows, we do voter registration. So we did a huge midterm voter registration guide drive, and registered a ton of people to vote. So we also are an activist organization. This is an image from our fundraiser and poetry reading for the Texas Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. It was a show of inmates on death row in Texas, and it was an amazing fundraiser and auction of these artists' work from prison. And this is my most recent news, is I just found out that I'm a 2021 Interchange Fellow through the Mid-America Arts Alliance. And what that means is it's funding, it's a grant for me to produce a project that's very, very personal, about being, it is an interdisciplinary platform for artists, over a dozen artists, that are exploring themes of rape culture, survivor justice, and healing. And the impetus of the show was an experience that happened to me when I was 18, and kind of throughout all of this political turmoil and Supreme Court and just Kavanaugh and all of this horrible stuff that's happening to women, this experience came up, and kind of processing the experience through my practice, this show happened. And that's why I love Dorf, because I'll be processing something in my own practice and visually, and then I'll realize that it's a way larger community problem, societal issue. And I have this opportunity to confront these things with this space. And so we're going to announce this show at the end of September, and I'm super excited for that. That's opening October 29th and runs through November 14th. And I hope everybody can come. And
thank you so much.
yes, here's how you can follow me, and then my personal, and then Dorf. And thank you so much. I'm sorry if I went over.
Thank you. We have a couple of comments in the chat, but we'll wait till the end. Next up, Paloma Mayorga. Let's hear what you're working on.
Hi, well, I'd like to, that was a great presentation, Sarah. Thanks so much for sharing that. It was really cool to see all of your work. I was familiar with your work, but not what you had been up to this last year. So that was really great. So I'd like to start out by thanking Diane, Ali, and the whole Women and Their Work team for the opportunity to share my work through this edition of Fresh from the Studio. I'm very excited to be showing my work later this month at the new Women in Their Work gallery for the Red Dot Art Spree. And I hope today people take away a little of the inspiration behind my work that will be included in that exhibition. So my name is Paloma Mayorga. I am an artist, curator, and arts administrator based here in Austin. And over the past 8 years, of my artistic practice, I've been working with an unconventional form of photography that's created with the use of the scanner. I work primarily with different kinds of plants and other collected natural materials that I find on hikes, and to create elaborate self-portraits. So I will share my screen now. And so working with the scanner is a particularly weird process because this is more or less like what my view of the images are until they are they're complete. And so when I typically will play around with different plants on the scanner bed and kind of like drag them as the light of the scanner reaches them, and eventually end up with images like this. So by using the scanner bed as like my primary medium, I suppose, I leave the scanner top open. And this allows for the light of the scanner to only reflect off of the objects that are on the scanner itself. Everything else, or where there isn't any objects, the light just keeps going. And so it creates this sort of abyss of darkness. The process allows me, like I mentioned before, to drag the plants that I have on the scanner and also to lift some of those plants. And also you'll see a lot of my hands and often like other body parts as well, but I'll lift them from the scanner bed and you'll get images like, let me see if I can find my cursor. Oh, I guess not. But you'll be able to see images like where my finger kind of looks like it's disappearing, or maybe like going into water is the effect that I get sometimes. And that's just created by the motion as like the light of the scanner is going through. So this, or I should say, prior to the pandemic, I was using plants as a metaphor for the bodies of women. I started seeing a lot of parallels between the way that we treat the bodies of women and the way that we treat the earth and plants and natural non-human beings. And I also see a lot of parallels in the language and the pronouns that we use for the earth and for women. So a lot of my work started exploring language, and to the point where I was literally inscribing it into some of these plants. And so this past year, there weren't any events to go to, so I spent a lot of time indoors, as many of us did, and I started reading a lot. I even joined this reading group that is called Pensar desde las plantas, which to translate means to think from the plants. So from like the perspective of the plants, or from like beginning with the plants. And the group is mostly focused on authors from Latin America that write about plants or the environment, and in connection to other political themes. And so from that, I got inspired to continue reading this sort of genre of like autobiography and metaphysics and other philosophies, but from the perspective of plants. And one author that I came across was Robin Wall Kimmerer, who I think is somebody that inspires a lot of people. I've started posting things on my Instagram about this particular author and this book, Braiding Sweetgrass. And I've gotten I started connecting with a lot of people over this book. And so that's been really special. And this particular quote has been fueling the work that I'm doing. So gifts from the earth or from each other establish a particular relationship, an obligation of sorts to give, to receive, and to reciprocate. And so this quote kind of fueled some of the work that is up currently in Austin. So I have my work showing at a couple of different places, and I'll share those with you today. So the first is this installation that I have at the lobby of the Line Austin downtown. And this was part of Future Front Texas residency program that they host. I had participated in the residency during the pandemic, so it was mostly virtual last summer, but then we had the opportunity to create this installation at the lobby. So this installation is called Dame y Te Doy, Give Me and I Give Back. And it explores this theme of reciprocity that Kimmer talks about in Braiding Sweetgrass. And this has been something that I've been thinking a lot about, especially in how it relates to our relationship with the earth, but of course, our relationship to other human beings in our lives. And how much of what we're putting into those people and into the earth are we getting back from it, and just trying to find like a nice balance between those two. So this installation was something, in terms of the way that I'm printing, is very different than previously. So you can see a little bit of the detail in the image on the left side, where this installation consists of a wallpaper that was printed kind of like a Xerox copy, tying it back to the fact that these images are created on the scanner. And then it has these aluminum prints that hang on top of it. And I don't know if you can see very well, it's hard to photograph these images, but the aluminum prints actually create this very reflective surface that almost looks like glass. And to me, that's kind of speaking back to the original medium, which is the glass fed. And so, yeah, this is sort of the new direction that my work is going into. And I've really just been working a lot and experimenting with the sizes of my works. So the other place where I'm exhibiting work currently in Austin is at Ani's Day and Night, which is a new coffee shop and bar that my friend Rachel Gerbowski, if you guys are familiar with her, has opened up. And it's been a really lovely place to show work. It's my first time showing in a coffee shop. I feel like a lot of artists might start out that way and then move on to other shows. And for me, it's been a little bit backward, but it's been such a special show and place to show my work, because Ani's and the sort of energy that Rachel is putting into the space is that it's very much a community space. And the whole Ani's team has been very respectful of the roots and the history of this space. And I recently made an Instagram post about that history. So if you're curious about it, you can check it out there. But that's been something that's been really lovely to be a part of, the history of this space in particular, located in East Austin. And so, let's see. So I wanted to show this image, or I guess this video. This is more or less my studio and where I have been spending a lot of my time this past year. So I come out here. This is my patio at my apartment, and I come out here to read. I'll bring out my watercolors and just do small studies of plants and random natural things that I find. I find a lot of insects, and I feel like with my friends, I'm kind of notorious for always picking up random things that tend to gross other people out, but that I find very interesting. And so, yeah, so just wanted to show this as like, this is where I find a lot of my inspiration. And in thinking of those insects and different things that I've been collecting, I started finding a lot of cicadas. And so, as some people may know, or I don't know if everyone is as big of a fan of cicadas as I am, but the 17-year cicadas came out on the East Coast, and we have the 13-year cicadas that are in Austin, or in Texas. And so I started finding cicadas and thinking about this insect as a little being that spends so many years underground, to finally like resurface and make its debut really spoke to me and spoke to the way that this past year has been going. So I started creating these images that are in combination with the insects that I've been finding, but also specifically plants that were grown by my dear friend Kelly. And Kelly has this incredible garden in South Austin, and she has spent so much time and energy like putting just all of herself like into this garden and receiving these like really beautiful flowers and herbs and vegetables and all these great things that she allowed me to take a piece of to create these images. And so after speaking with other people again on social media, after posting some of these images and talking about that shared experience of this garden, people started reaching out to me saying like, oh, I have this plant and I have this other plant and I would love to share this with you. So that has been really special at another point of connection with me to other people, particularly women in my community. And so these are some of the images that I'll be showing at some upcoming shows. And my final slide of the presentation is the shows that I have coming up. So I'll be showing as part of the Crit Group Reunion show along with Sarah at the Contemporary. I do have a show up at Southwestern University that is an alumni show from all of the painting majors and the way that we've interpreted our painting practice and gone on to other mediums. Of course, the Women and Their Work Red Dot Art Spree. And then I'm actually going to be a part of Sarah's Dwarf show that's coming up this fall. I'm very excited about that. And finally, I'll be showing some work at the Austin Studio Tour at Furman and Keel Architects. But yeah, I think that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And our third artist is Mayuko Ono Gray.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity to, of course, Diane, Ali, Paloma, and Sarah. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, how do you go back? So when I talk about my art, I really have to just explain my life. So I'm gonna try this in 10 minutes. So I grew up in Japan. I was born there, raised. So since I was like 5 or 6, my mom sent me to calligraphy school, which is really common practice because we think it's a beautiful handwriting is such a virtue. So this is not the exact place I went, but it's something like that. All the kids on the tatami mat, just sitting on the floor. And the teacher gives you the example. So it's an orange one, the teacher's example. And you'd sit there and you'd practice same character over and over and over, like 50 sheets. So it's about the line quality or how much you study the master's example and you take that and create the energy in the line. So it's really different from Western art that it's same word written in there. It's not about the subject, but it's about how you express it. This means light, so again, whole. So when I was in high school, I was gonna still stay in Japan and I was gonna apply for an art college. So I had to learn how to draw with graphite and charcoal in Western drawing manners, I'm sorry. So I had to go to private schools. Again, this is not the exact place I went, but it was like this. Like all of a sudden, the tatami mat and ink is gone. But now I was giving one paper, which I would work on like 3 hours straight, instead of going through many rice papers. So it was really different. And we had all those nice white marble casts. So that's how I have both aspects of art in me. I just put it here because this poster was in the high school art classroom, and I always thought this was the best art, and I still love Escher. Okay, so I moved to US and jumped the MFA thesis show. So I went to U of H main campus. Their MFA program is 3 years. So during the program, I was in painting major. So I painted, but I really struggled finding my own voice. Like some people had like women's rights, some people had culture, race, whatever the political stance they want to express, but or commercialism, I really didn't have like what I wanted to do. Like I was kind of lost. And so I almost died 3 months before the thesis show. And when I came back, I was like, I just want to go back to drawing. I just want to do grayscale. So I did have some works built up for thesis show, but I just ditched everything. I started to draw for the thesis show. So this is one of the first works I did after I came back. Drawing of myself and my ex-husband. And this was a flower the classmates or the studio mates gave me when I was in hospital. So I just decided to draw because that's what I wanted to do. And it's the best thing happens to you. It's like you face death and you realize, oh, I'm gonna die, so I better do what I wanna do. So I started drawing. And I always had this white background. I think because it was in calligraphy practice, the white area of paper is also sacred. You're not supposed to have smudge fingerprints. It needs to be pristine white. So I think I was bringing that thing. But at some time, 2009, I got the kind of tired, or I was stuck with the representational images. So I started just making small drawing with pen. So I was just combining bits and pieces of information. But then I was starting to really incorporate this rope-like line. I didn't know what it was, but I met the Dr. Izat. He was taking painting class at the college I work at. And he was a retired doctor. And his work was about this calligraphy he did. So I got so inspired, like, oh yeah, I should use my calligraphy background too. So I started using that rope and I started weaving them into actual Japanese writing. And I started using proverbs. This is 4 seasons. From the very right, it's a spring, summer, fall, and the winter. So each work a combination of proverbs, which actually expresses about the love. Spring's about the love, like happiness, and summer is a passion. Fall is like you start to realize it doesn't work. And the last one, winter is like it's actually 2 proverbs. One says, "Don't cry over spilled water," and this other one says, "Alcohol is the best medicine of all." So I was playing with that. Then I started doing some on my own poems. And this is just the poems really written out in Japanese from top right to left bottom. So I started playing with this idea of one continuous line. It's like birth, and you have your physical body, you live through the life, and you exit. And you're gone. Where are you going? Like, where did you come from? Where are you going? But all you can see is your body here. And it really, I think I was starting to see what I want to really do with my art is to really question why we are here and why we feel the way we do. It's just to amazing things. So one day I was making this work, and I decided to put something here just for the compositional thing. So I stuck my husband here, and I said, it looks good, and it reminded me of a card game I used to play in Japan. So those are poets, and each card is a poem of the poet whose portrait is on. So I was thinking, maybe I like this format. So I started making those. I'm gonna explain. This is my daughter, a portrait of a teenage daughter. So teenage daughter is like a tiger. It's fierce, beautiful, but if you get too close to it, it's gonna really hurt you. So you need to love from distance. So, and it's holding Jasmine because it's her middle name. And again, I started really just drawing my daily life. And I love my cats and I want to draw them. And nobody's gonna be like, oh, it's cliche. Like when you know you're gonna die, you wanna do what you wanna do. So I'm drawing my cats. So, and this is my daughter, fish I catch. I'm going fast. And I started to playing with grids, but sometimes I make a detail here and there. This is my cat, Emily, who disappeared. I don't know where she went, but also some detours playing with the dots. And the Corona breakfast. And I'm playing with still life. This is the newest work I finished. So it's pulsating still life. So it's, everything, the has form is just pulsating. It's all the atoms moving. And the most current work I'm working on is behind me. So last month I had another surgery, and they actually had to go over the cut I already had on my stomach. So the work behind me, I tried to kind of copy the same composition. Yeah, that's behind me. Okay, and I have an exhibition right now at Wright College. No, I'm sorry, Wright Gallery at the Texas A&M in College Station. So my works are really hard to photograph like Paloma's because it's graphite reflects and the background's paper. It's really hard to keep all the whiteness same. But you can Photoshop some. But so if you have opportunity, please go see the exhibition. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to all three of the artists for sharing your different practices. I also thought it was very interesting to find out that you all had some sort of curatorial practice, and we didn't realize that ahead of time. So I thought that was really interesting. I'll go ahead and open it up. If anyone in the audience has any questions they want to ask to any of the artists, or any of the artists have questions for one another, feel free to go ahead and ask those now.
I have a question for Mayuko, if nobody else does. Okay. For your process, Mayuko, like, I know that you work with graphite. Do you work a lot with like picking the graphite back off of the paper? I think this is just like a self-serving technical question, but because you get a lot of like really light colors in there. So I don't know if you're just like picking the graphite back up, or if you just like work to like add on to create the darker tones. Oh.
My video. Okay. I use graphite ranging from 10B to 10H. So that's how I create the value scale. And it's really fun because graphite is limited, but you can play with the range. And because it's limited, it has set of rules like a game. So you have to really try to be creative with that. So yeah, it's fun. I love graphite.
Thank
Thank you.
Sarah, I was struck by when you walked through the chronology of your work, seeing you go from the textiles to the mural, how the style looked similar. So I was curious if painting on textiles, how that might have changed the way you worked in other media after working on that.
Hi, Andrea, and thank you for that question. Yeah, so the work that I was making during Crit Group and that the first slides, the first textile work that I showed y'all was I made it using the same process as the Facebook video. So when you saw in the video all of the drawings, it actually was a process that I was stuck in my head. I was like, I had an artist block, and Eric was like, just start doing tons of drawings. And I started doing tons of drawings, and then he looked at them and was like, what if you cut those up and make a collage? And so that's kind of how this new way of working, that way of working started, was just doing like Sharpie drawings, real fast drawings, and then cutting them out and then collaging them. And that became the composition. And then that we took the same approach with the Facebook mural. So it was very similar to the fabric work in that each drawing kind of became one or two or three colors. Like they were pretty flat and simplified in terms of the approach of painting. And that was the same approach with the Facebook mural. So yeah, those are definitely the same process, and really it was an interesting challenge to try to do similar things with acrylic as dye on fabric. Does that answer that?
Yeah, you figured out how to do it. I hope that we get to go inside and see that mural sometime.
That's the weirdest thing, is like we finished and then no one got to see it because the last 2 days were like the place emptied out. So it's pretty weird. No one's seen it yet.
Claire, you can feel free to ask your question if you'd like.
Thank you. I couldn't unmute before. Just so impressed with all three of you. Thank you so much for this. It was just really inspiring for me. The thing that strikes me is that all three of you have your training in art. And to me, that seems like it is clearly a tremendous advantage, and I don't have that. Any thoughts or advice or for those of us who came to being an artist late in life, and I'm learning everything the hard way?
You can learn anything on YouTube. So don't be shy, seriously. Yeah. And yeah, have the confidence, your art is yours. So don't feel like, oh, I didn't have a traditional training. No, you have to be the biggest fan of your work.
I'm confident in my work. I'm happy with my work. It's I look at you have all these shows that you're doing, and you have the connections, and you know what to do. I'm just struggling to try to get enough Instagram followers and that sort of thing. The thing is, I don't know enough to even know the question to ask. Does that make sense? For how to start being an artist. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Paloma.
Oh, thank you. So Claire, one thing that actually really helped move my work along the past couple of years, when I felt like I was getting really stagnant in what I was doing, which is not necessarily what you're saying, but I think that this helps get your work to move along, is getting critiqued. So something that's really valuable, like in my training in school, was like getting those, weekly critiques. And now there are programs. Are you based in Austin?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
late to a critique, in fact. So.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, the Contemporary does their crit group program, and Concept Animals, which is another collective here in town, are starting to do crit nights, and they're going to be doing one in collaboration with the Contemporary soon. So those sessions have been really inspiring and trying to get that. But yeah, I think other than that, like maybe continuing to network, and hopefully as we start to be able to, share physical space with other people, then that'll get better.
Mhm.
I was gonna piggyback off of what Paloma just said about it's really unfortunate that we can't be with each other right now, but showing up to things like this and showing up to really anything it's just like everything else in the world. You introduce everything's about community, everything's about who you know. You introduce yourself to people. I used to have a rule when I was young that and just got out of school, that I had to introduce myself to 2 or 3 people every time I went out. And it was horrifying, but that's how you build your network and make friends and meet people. And that's, to me, it's not about Instagram followers. It's about community and like what you're building with the people who are around you. We have an amazing one in Austin. So yeah, when things open up, just show up to everything and be curious about what's happening in this ecosystem here, because there's a lot. It's really cool.
May I ask another question, or?
Yeah, can I
Or
just say real quick there, I think another thing that is really helpful and that has provided like new opportunities for me, and the reason that I have so many shows coming up are because I started to apply for more things. So apply for residencies, for exhibitions, for juried shows. That was actually how Andrea here saw my work and then invited me to apply to the crit group program. So it's, I think if your work is being seen by curators that are jurying these things, that is also a really great way of getting more opportunities. Maybe not necessarily for the ones that you apply, because that's what happened to me. I didn't get the thing that I applied for, but I got something else, another opportunity out of it.
I'm sorry, I have to add one more thing. Yes, I totally apply to the juried shows. Go to sites like a cafe or like Art Deadline, like start applying to all the juried shows. And also, I think Doherty Art Center in Austin has always accepts submissions. And I'm a gallery director at my college, so I sometimes post requesting submission exhibition proposals, but we don't get many. So if you are out looking for opportunities, you're gonna get it. Yeah, just don't wait. Nobody's gonna find you.
Yeah, I don't expect that. I just don't even know where to go. I had my work up at Genuine Joe's and sold a bunch there, but I mean, clearly I need more than that. And everything you said, I'm going to go back and listen to the skin and write everything down, because that was very, very helpful. Thank you. Yeah. One thing that's very obvious to me, I'm on another group that's got thousands of artists, and everybody talks about what's going on in their artistic world. And the majority of the posts by men are, oh, I just got this contract with, the Hilton to put one of my works in every single hotel. And the women are posting these things like, I sold a piece today. And there's just such a disparity in the advantages, it seems to me, that men have versus women. I mean, the work, if you look at the work, it's not that different. But it seems like men have.
Seems like we live in a white supremacist patriarchy, doesn't it? We do. We're gonna have to fight that battle for a long time. But the other thing I was gonna recommend is there are some awesome books that kind of tell you like what your resume should look like, what a good cover letter, how to approach curators, things like that. There's one called Art Works, and I forget who the author is, but it's got a lot of good how-tos. And then the other one is Jackie Battenfield, How to Live and Sustain a Creative Life. And there are tons, but Google, there are so many books that tell you, like they explain to you how to be an artist in this, male-dominated white supremacist system we're in.
Thank you for saying it out loud. I appreciate it.
I just dropped a couple of those links in the chat.
Thank you so much.
I'm putting in a plug for Getting Your Shit Together, which is an artist handbook that's like it's much gentler than the title, but is good, practical, like business stuff.
Right on. Thank you.
Well, thank you, all of you, for answering all of those questions and being so open about your practice and your journey here. I was going to go ahead and let everyone know about a couple of things we have coming up at Women in Their Work. On the 16th of September, we have a talk with our curator, Vicki Meek, for our current exhibition, We Know Who We Are, We Know What We Want. And she will be talking with all 9 of the artists are included in the exhibition. And that's Thursday, September 16th at 6 p.m. And then one final last mention of Red Dot. All 3 of the artists that you heard from today are included in our Red Dot exhibition coming up on September the 30th. And I dropped all the links to all of that in the chat. And feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And just one last thank you so much to sharing all your work with us today. It was a really great presentation from all of you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. This was awesome. It's great to see familiar faces.
Thanks so much, Ali and Diane.
Thank you.